Trump's 2017 tax cuts for the wealthy included a benefit that hasn't really been talked about much. And that benefit allows wealthy investors to take their money out of the stock market, avoid paying capital gains taxes, and then invest it into developments in so-called opportunity zones. Now, opportunity zones are supposed to be areas of the country that are grappling with poverty, that desperately need some development, but there are no safeguards in the bill indicating that they have to build in a so-called opportunity zone. In fact, research indicates that most of these developments are actually constructed in areas that are low risk and are not grappling with poverty. So let me give you the details, and I want to give the New York Times credit for this story because they did a great job. This is an example of reporting that should receive some positive reinforcement. Now, the initiative allows people to sell stocks or other investments and delay capital gains taxes for years, as long as they plow the proceeds into projects in federally certified opportunity zones. Any profits from those projects can avoid federal taxes altogether. That's the most important part. Now remember, the wealthy do not want to pay taxes. So they can avoid paying capital gains taxes by diverting that money into these developments, and any profit they make from those developments goes straight into their pockets and they do not have to worry about paying taxes on it. It allows investors to defer up to 7 years any capital gains taxes on the money they invest in opportunity zones. That deferral is valuable because it allows people to invest in a larger sum up front, potentially generating more profits over time. After 10 years, the investor can cash out by selling the opportunity zone real estate, for example, and not owe any taxes on the profits. When investors sell those assets, they can incur tax bills of up to 41%. Now that's assuming that they're actually paying taxes on their capital gains. So because of Trump's legislation and now law, all of these real estate investors and all of these wealthy people who invest in the stock market can avoid taxes altogether. Now PBS did a great piece on this, and I want to show you a clip that explains where this money is really going. Take a look.
Virtuous apartment complex will be priced at market rate, but the company says it will voluntarily set aside at least 9 of the 90 units for those earning around the median income, a category known as workforce housing. But there is no requirement within the legislation for a real estate developer to provide a benefit beyond simply creating a, quote, substantial improvement, meaning an increase in the value of the property over a 30-month period. That means cities like Tempe can't force developers to build projects in opportunity zones that deliver specific benefits like affordable housing.
They're not really getting anything from us, so it's hard for us, on private property, it's hard for a city to impose itself.
So get a load of this. Not only are the vast majority of developments being built in areas that are not grappling with poverty, when they are built in areas that are grappling with poverty, there's absolutely no indication that they have to provide affordable housing for that community. So they're building these developments, these, I'm sure you've seen them in your own town, these high rises. They're selling them at market value, meaning it's overpriced and most people can't afford it. And if they're kind enough, maybe 9 out of the 90 units will be priced for individuals who are earning the median income. Understand that median income is in the very middle. So it's not people who are in poverty, it's people who are in the middle between those who barely make enough to survive and those who are tremendously wealthy.
So then there's the corruption. Richard Lafrac is someone who's taking advantage of one of these so-called opportunity zones. He happened to give $500,000 to Donald Trump's campaign and inauguration. And then he went to the city manager where he's about to put up a luxury building and said, hey, why don't we try to be an opportunity zone, even though they're not at all poor? And the city manager's like, yeah, that sounds good to me, man. I get more money, you get more money, everybody here wins. But will the federal government allow it? It's outrageous to call this place poor. Federal government allowed it. Probably a total coincidence that the guy who asked for it happened to be a massive contributor to Donald Trump. So it turns out of the 8,800 opportunity zones, 200 of them are not in poor areas. They are adjacent to poor areas.
Yeah, let me give you more details on that.
Can I just, before we go on though, Beverly Hills is arguably adjacent to a poor area. Almost all of Manhattan is adjacent to a poor area. Adjacent to poor area is a hilarious, preposterous loophole that is used, of course, to benefit only the rich.
So there's a man named Aaron Sabert, and he was very much in favor of this part of the tax plan, right? He's a social investment officer at the Kresge Foundation. So he was supportive of it, and then he saw how things really played out, and he's very critical of how the money is flowing to these high income areas. So he says capital is going to flow to the lowest risk, highest return environment. Perhaps 95% of this is doing no good for people we care about. And just going back to what Cenk mentioned earlier about the properties and where they're being placed. Last year, the Treasury Department approved roughly 8,800 such zones. Nearly a third of the 31 million people who live in the zones are considered poor. So 1/3, almost double the national poverty rate. Yet there are plenty of affluent areas inside those poor census tracts. And as investors would soon realize, some of those zones were not low income at all.
So there's two different issues. There's the poor adjacent ones that are not at all poor, and there's hundreds of those. And then there's within a poor area that is generally more poor than the national average, there are pockets that are perfectly wealthy. Like, so one of the opportunity zones is in Manhattan. Oh no, it's the far west side of Manhattan. Hilarious. Some of the world's largest financial institutions are on the west side, on the far west side of Manhattan. Manhattan is not an opportunity zone unless you're talking about the opportunity to rip off the average American taxpayer. So how many people does this affect? Well, in order to have capital gains, you have to have a lot of money that you invest and hold, whether it's in real estate, stock market, etc. You know how many people have report capital gains every year? 7%. So this doesn't affect 93% of you at all. You won't get any benefit out of it. To be fair, some of the investors are good guys, and they actually are putting it into places that, like in Alabama, that's needed, in near Cleveland where it's needed, etc. So there are some good projects that are happening. The majority of the projects are all in the wealthy areas and luxury places.
Yes.
Which I'll get to some of those details in a second too, because they're hilarious. Okay, but in terms of the people that it affects financially, it's just those 7%. And of those 7% that get capital gains and have to pay capital gains, 2/3 of them make over $1 million in annual income every year. So they're the richest of the rich. So that's where the benefits are going. Now, the rich are supposed to take that money and then help the poor in these opportunity zones.
That's not what they're doing.
So condos in one of these projects are going for $7.5 million.
Cenk, finally. Okay, so can you finally agree with me? Like, this is what I've been yelling about from the rooftops, and no one ever listens to me. It drives me nuts, right?
I wouldn't know how that feels.
Nuts. So look, I've been saying over and over again, you see these luxury condo buildings, luxury apartment buildings popping up all over the place. They're all over LA. But they sit vacant, okay? They're not all rented out. And so you hear these annoying developers, right? So the California Realtors Association keeps putting out this propaganda about, oh, you know what? It's the zoning laws. There are too many zoning laws and we need to get rid of the zoning laws so we can deal with this affordable housing issue. You guys are liars, okay? We're not idiots. It's not the zoning laws. There are, again, luxury apartment buildings popping up all over the city and they're sitting vacant. In fact, even if you take that out of the equation, there are over 100,000 vacant units in Los Angeles County alone. So why are we talking about getting rid of zoning laws in order to build more housing when we already have the vacant housing there? And I kept asking myself, why would developers do this? Isn't it a waste of money to spend all of this cash on constructing these high rises and then they sit empty? But it's a huge tax shelter for all these wealthy people. Then they'll go ahead and sell the building and all the profit they make out of it is tax free.
So it increased the profits of these developments by about 70%. So there's a gold rush right now. And they're not gonna be able to reverse this in the next administration because those developers are gonna say, hey, I relied on the government telling me I was gonna get this tax break forever. So now I get to have it forever. Oh, you gotta cut Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and food stamps and everything else? Golly gee, I had to make this. You know, one of the opportunity zones, they're building a Ritz-Carlton.
That's what, but that's exactly what the poor needs, right?
Yeah, that's what the poor needs.
They're full of it. They're full of it. And look, they have no interest in providing affordable housing. What they're really gonna do, even when they go and develop in so-called opportunity zones that actually do qualify as opportunity zones, if they don't rent those units out for affordable housing and they price them at market value, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna push more people out of their homes. They're gonna inflate the housing prices in those communities. No one's a winner in this case, if you ask me. This is a disastrous idea all around.
No, if you're MAGA, if you cared about facts at all, you'd be even more upset because it turns out Steve Mnuchin sent one of his top aides to go sell this in different parts of the country. His name is Daniel Kowalski. And one of the places he went to, he wound up meeting with, oh, look at this, the Pritzkers and the Soros family at the Harvard Club in New York. Yeah, they're like, oh, Soros family, let's make you more money. Pritzkers, a well-known Democratic family, let's make you more money. Because it isn't about Republicans and Democrats, it's about the rich versus everyone else.
Exactly.
And so Swiss Bank is right now saying, the Swiss Bank UBS is saying, for their quote, ultra high net worth clients, this is a golden opportunity. Now, what's an ultra high net worth client? You have to have at least $50 million. So they're like, if you have over $50 million, this program will help you immensely. They sold it as a program for the poor. One of the condo buildings is going to have a spa for pets. So while the poor are getting almost nothing out of this program, the richest people in the country and all over the world are laughing their ass off. Trump for the people. Last thing, because I want you to know this is important. We told you about LaFrac, who's a huge donor to Donald Trump. Well, as I was telling you, he's building this project in North Miami. And New York Times explains, not far away in the design district, Daniel Levinson is planning to build his high-end office tower. Mr. Levinson previously joined the Trump Organization to sell luxury condominiums at the Trump Hollywood complex north of Miami. What another wonderful coincidence. And finally, there's another investment company named Cadre who's going to take advantage. Guess who that's co-founded by? Jared Kushner.
Yep, and he has his eyes set on my hometown, San Fernando Valley.
And
no, we gotta stop it. Like, I'm so tired of the average American getting screwed, constantly working our asses off, right? Only to have these goons undermine our communities, push families out of the homes that they lived in their entire lives. We need to get active. We need to stop this.
Donald Trump was right about one thing. He warned about the swamp. Man, there ain't any story better than this if you want to know what the swamp really looks like. Oh, we'll help the poor. Hey, guys, rush on in. Ultra high net worth people. Jared Kushner, all the guys who gave me donations. Soros, Pritzker, it doesn't matter. Hey, this is the great American robbery. Let's rob the American people blind. He didn't say it as a warning. He said it basically as a how-to manual. Donald Trump is the swamp. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.